Hello everyone, Fanta here, you're watching Fantavision, and today I am discussing loot boxes. That's right, loot boxes are back in everybody's minds because Polygon has decided to defend loot boxes yet again. That's right, they have in the past as well, and I don't understand why. I'm reading what they're saying, but it doesn't make sense. So what they're basically saying is that they are a threat to sports games as we know it, and that because of this anti-loot box bill, sports games might not exist anymore. That's right, guys. They're not going to exist anymore because loot boxes don't exist. You remember all those other sports games before loot boxes? Apparently that's not possible anymore. I know. It's crazy, right? Now the thing is they're talking about all these different contracts. There was like a $1 billion contract with the NBA that Take-Two just signed for 7 years and all that stuff. And they're talking about these, who's going to pay for these $1 billion licenses? Well, the thing is I'm sure that, of course, the licensing fees have gone up because they see how much money they're making on loot boxes. Isn't that crazy? That when you see the value of the item that they're selling go up, that you're going to charge more? Aren't they going to want a bigger piece of the pie? If they see that those video games are making millions upon millions in the billions of dollars because of these microtransactions and predatory practices, then obviously they're going to want to get in on the action and they're going to charge more money for the licenses. Also, remember when there used to be competition in sports games? There were a bunch of different sports games, and they all had the official teams. Remember, 2K used to have football. Now, the fact that EA has a monopoly pretty much on all sports games except for the NBA has led to their games being lazy. If you look at review scores for a lot of these games and how they look and how they act every year, I mean, you're seeing less and less improvement, less and less evolution because they have no competition. If you want to buy a football game, you buy Madden. That's all there is. You can't buy anything else. And because of that, they've gotten lazy. So, if for some reason, the licensing fees are too expensive, I'm sure they're going to lower the licensing fees, especially if there's lots more people that are buying into it. Maybe it'll price them out of a monopoly. Maybe it's a good thing. Maybe it's a threat to EA's monopoly. How about that? Maybe we haven't thought of it that way. Maybe selling games like how we used to sell games could still work. Now, people always will say, well, Fanta, we need the loot boxes, we need these microtransactions because games are so much more expensive and, they got to pay those developers more money. They're not paying developers more money. They're not. They're simply not. They're laying off people in their most profitable times. I mean, Activision laid off a ton of people when they just posted these big numbers. And the thing is with these microtransactions and loot boxes, because of how fast they made this money, they have to beat year over year profits. And with loot boxes and microtransactions that boom, cannot be replicated year after year. Just can't be. Contrary to popular belief, we the consumers only have a set amount of money. Unless all of our jobs just start paying us more money, then yeah, we'll be able to keep spending more and more money because we'll have it. But unfortunately, if you look at the charts of how much the average person's paid, really isn't going up very much. So they keep expecting infinite amounts of money to come out of our wallets to support their insanely steep growth. And they need that to keep going up year after year after year. So their unsustainable loot box system and their microtransactions, it's not, even if they left it in all games, it's not sustainable. So this whole threat is bullshit. It's a threat to their year over year. That's it. It's a threat to what their shareholders see of this company. They made their own threat. The loot boxes and microtransactions, before they ever existed, they were still making lots of money. It was fine. It was never needed. It was something that, this is making a shit ton of money. This is making an insane amount of money. And they did. And they made an insane amount of money. But then they have to beat it. So because of that, even though they're profitable, technically they're failures. Even though Call of Duty made $500 million near launch. It was a failure because they have to beat year over year. So just really everything that has to do with businesses, it's like unsustainable. At some point, you can't beat year over year. You just can't. And this is showing the game industry right here that this is exactly the case with an insane boost of income. Yes, you get huge profits, but guess what? Not sustainable. And it's not our job to sustain their profits. That's the weird thing, is that it seems like we're supposed to feel bad for these companies. I don't feel bad for these companies. They don't care about us. That's what these defenders don't get. They don't care about you. If they can't figure it out, then they need to adapt with the market. They need to adapt with the times. They pushed microtransactions and loot boxes way too far, to the point that they had to be regulated. They could have regulated themselves, but nope. Infinite greed and infinite money were their goal. They couldn't just make a lot of money. They had to make all of the money. And because they wanted to make all the money as fast as possible, they made it impossible to replicate that and just beat their goal year over year. They couldn't make it any more greedier, and because they couldn't make it any greedier, they had to just go to pay to win. And then when they did that, they had gone too far, and now we're getting regulated. Now we're getting an anti-loot box bill. Now it's illegal in Belgium to have loot boxes in your games. They pushed it too far, and I don't feel bad about them. I don't feel bad about that, because I had been talking about it before it even got to that point, about how stupid it was and how insane. Do you remember when everybody was complaining and laughing about horse armor in Oblivion? How far have we gotten from that? Seriously. We didn't need it back then. We don't need it now. They're not paying developers more money. They're not all of a sudden all rich people driving around these fancy ass cars. No, they're still working insane hours. They're still working crunch time. And guess what? The executives are still getting paid millions and millions of dollars. The pay gap between the CEO and the developers is huge. What was it? Zelnick was getting, Bobby Kotick, they're all getting in the tens of millions. They don't need that much money. No human being needs that much money. So when you tell me that, oh, think of the developers, I am thinking of the developers, and I'm thinking, maybe you should pay the developers more, maybe you should get better management, and maybe you should stop paying the executives so much. Maybe executives don't need tens of millions of dollars. They're on the top lists for most overpaid CEOs because of the pay gap. It's insane. You don't need that much money. You seriously don't. Okay? It just baffles me when these articles come out, because there are plenty of other ways that they make money besides loot boxes. And they're talking about how these ultimate team modes need to exist. They can still exist without having that bullshit in the game. What if, let's say, you had special events and you had to pay to get into the special event, or you used in-game currency to get into the special event? So you still have something that people are looking forward to. They want to play in this big event. They want to win more in-game prizes. But to do that, you can use real money or in-game money. You still get the microtransaction element. However, it's not random. They're just paying to get into an event. They're paying for something. And they also have the ability to pay the in-game money as well. Isn't that kind of a win-win? I understand it's not as giant as loot boxes. It's not as addictive. But that's the point. That's the whole point, is to get rid of that, to be more consumer friendly. They're still going to be making lots of money. They won't be making all of the money, but that is a fine example of how they can still make a lot of money. But that's not enough. And that kind of idea would never be put into a game by itself. They'd always have to put something else in nowadays. And people that are okay with microtransactions, they're just desensitized, because it's so prevalent. And that's what the industry does. We laughed at horse armor, but they kept pushing it. They kept pushing microtransactions into games. They kept doing it. They slowly crept the line forward of what we would accept, to the point where people are now defending loot boxes, the worst type of microtransaction. And people always go, well, Fanta card games though, Magic the Gathering, that's like loot boxes. No, They're not, because you get a physical thing immediately. There's so many different game types you can play with those cards immediately. They'll always have some sort of value. You're not getting nothing. And that's what you're getting in microtransactions and loot boxes is nothing. You're paying for some digital product in a $60 game. You know what? If they want to have microtransactions in games, it's fine, but don't charge me $60. Free-to-play games, I'm fine. If they want to have microtransactions in those games, that's fine. But if you're charging $60 up front, that's not a little bit of money. That's not a small amount. $60 is a lot to a lot of people. So when you're telling me that, oh, think of the developers, how are they going to make money? They're going to make money by selling a $60 product. And from what I've seen in these sports games, it doesn't look like they're putting that much extra effort into. Look at the reviews of users on the NHL games. They keep getting worse to a lot of people. I haven't played them in a long time. I'm about to play the 19 because it was free on Xbox. But the quality of these games has really dipped. And that's because they've focused so heavily into the ultimate team modes. They focus so heavily on the microtransactions. And EA has that monopoly. So you know what? I hope it's a threat to sports games. I hope it's a threat to sports games as we know it now. Because I'm sick of seeing this freaking monopoly. Because it shouldn't be there. There should be no monopoly in any market. I don't know how somehow that's legal for them to be the only people to be able to make sports games. It's just frustrating. I don't know. And it's even more frustrating the people that defend it. I'm sure there'll be people in the comments that are going to defend this crap. And I don't get what kind of Stockholm syndrome you have. I really don't. I don't know how they've manipulated your mind with all of their PR releases and all of these. Yeah, we just want to give players the choice of microtransactions. I want to give players the choice of buying loot boxes. It's not choice. That's not what they want. They're not wanting to give you a choice. They're wanting you to spend your money. That's why the Lord of the Rings game was so bad. Because they botched it with all the different microtransactions and loot boxes. That's why they had to rip it out and change the gameplay. The fact that they have had to change the gameplay because of the freaking loot boxes shows you. It just shows you how it can ruin a game. It ruins the economy of games. It ruins the fun of them. Even back when I played Overwatch, last example, just getting the loot boxes from leveling up was just not that satisfying. It wasn't. I mean, you'd open the box and it's just a bunch of sprays and you're like, okay, whatever. That's it. Like that's what I'm getting right now from this game. It's just a box full of crap. It was not rewarding enough. The gameplay loop was not addicting enough to keep playing the game. What it wanted you to do was get sick of waiting and buy more boxes. That's what every game is designed to do nowadays. They're designed to annoy you enough to just be impatient and spend money. Because that's what they want you to do. They're not looking to give you a choice to skip the grind. They're looking to make the grind worse to make you want to pay to skip the grind. That's what's going on. If you don't see that, you're blind. Thanks for watching, everyone. Have a fantastic day.